We're with you again, dear ones, and we say good morning to you. We are happy to be back with the founding members. We will call you that. This is a nice title. You are on the leading edge. You have stepped into leading edge material, leading edge thinking, leading edge evolution. So you should be proud of yourselves for that. Much work is done prior to this step. We want you to understand this, that the consciousness evolution process is a long and slow one. It can happen quickly for some beings, but that is generally their karmic history that brings sudden and dramatic shifts. As our dear one experienced a sudden and dramatic shift, overnight success after 10 years, as she says. That is very much how it was. But this lifetime of hers is one that is arising from many other similar experiences as a teacher-student of this material. So we want you to understand that your individual journey is designed for you. We want you to get to that place where you relax into your experience, knowing that every single person, place, and thing that you are meeting, every single experience that you have had in the past has been perfect. To stop the internal recriminations, to stop the obsession with the past, if it is something that makes you feel special in some way or better than others in some way. It is important to let the past go. It gives you nothing now. The past gives you nothing now. It is only your experience here that is transformative. So we would like you to watch that part of your mind. Where do you go when you are dreaming, when you are not focusing your mind? Is it to past events? Is it to future events that have not yet transpired? These are mere fantasies in the mind. They are not real. They are the ego at play. You do not necessarily realize it, but we remind you once again, this world is a world of ego consciousness, and your mind will go there as a default. That is its natural place in this particular location. It is not its natural place in eternity, but you have stepped into a separation experience. Again, we remind you of this, and as you come into separation experience, this world arises in the mind, and it is the ego's playground. So it requires discipline, it requires training to focus the mind towards the truth. You will not see it represented very often in this world. You will not see it coming to you frequently. You will see separation coming to you frequently. People's conversations of fear and negativity are to be ignored in a way that is loving. Not to put them down, not to judge them, but to understand that this consciousness is in separation mode, if you will. So it is a practice to engage this separated world, this separated experience with love. That is the journey you are all on, the return to love. And so we will leave it at that. We will pass our dear one over to Jesus, and he will continue on with his teaching and letting you know what the next steps are for your training. I am returned to continue on this teaching, and you are welcome back. We are going to speak today about crucifixion. We are going to speak about that story, what happened to me on the earth as I was coming to the end of my physical incarnation on this plane. This image of the crucified Jesus permeates your society, and it permeates your mind. The idea of suffering has been planted in the mind, has been fed and nurtured for particular gain by ruling hierarchical structures. So we will travel back in time so that you can understand what my experience was, what my purpose was in demonstrating this what has appeared from the outside to be a catastrophically negative act. In my incarnation, in my teaching ministry, there was an energy building. It was a powerful time, a revolutionary time. I was a revolutionary. I was not a well-behaved, quiet rabbi teaching quietly. I was out and about, inspiring, upsetting, disrupting. That is my idea of a good time. Going into a society, much as I am coming into this one, to cause ripples, to upset the apple cart. This is how the mind is shifted. The mind is deeply entrenched in its attitudes. It is deeply entrenched in its fears. And it will stay cowering in those dark places unless a light is shone on it. But the light being shone on a mind that has been in darkness, a light that is shone into a heart that is closed is painful. Just as you turn on your light in the middle of the night, the eyes and the body recoil from that. The spirit is the same. When it is habituated to darkness, when it is habituated to fear, when it is habituated to judgment, these opposing forces of love and opening, communication, communion, terrify it. So it must be brought at times forcefully into societies where these fears have won, where these fears have taken over the collective consciousness. And so that is the realm into which I ventured so long ago. I was building a ministry based on two teachings. The teachings that I brought to ordinary men and women in public, simple people, uneducated people, translated into the parables that you are so familiar with. And there was another ministry, there was a private ministry where I spoke unadulterated truth to men and women. Women were not allowed to be taught in public. They were generally women who were partners, daughters, wives of men who were following the teachings, opening their minds and hearts and allowing, for that is the state of the male-female relationship at that time, allowing those women to share in this experience. It was clear to me that it was women who were going to change the psyche of the next generation. They were the ones who were teaching the children. They were the ones who were constantly training the youngsters. And so I insisted on this taking place in this form. But from the outside, the ministry looked patriarchal. It allowed me to continue for a little while. It was not going to be permitted for long. I was well aware of that. A full 2 years before I was crucified, I knew that I would be taken out, so to speak. My personal relationships suffered because of that, but it was an assignment that I had been prepared for my entire life and was taking it with a grain of salt because of my understanding, because of my awareness of consciousness and the fallibility of the body, the unnecessary need for the body, the pain and suffering that the body in an unawakened mind causes. These were things that I was aware of. I was not fearful in the way that most people imagined. There was direct contact with non-physical for those years that I was teaching and learning. I was still learning. I was learning how to negotiate large crowds of people. I was learning how to be courageous in dangerous circumstances. I was learning to look after myself. I had never experienced the kind of consciousness that I had after my enlightenment before. When it happens, it is a completely new language. It is a completely new experience. It takes time. There were times when I was overwhelmed by the work that I was being asked to do. There were times when I just wanted to close the door of my home and be an ordinary person because it was too much for me. I went through the ordinary feelings and emotions that any human would go through because that is what I was. I became an enlightened human, but I was human nonetheless. But these years leading up to my crucifixion were limited. I knew they were limited. The trouble I was causing, the message that I was bringing, the vibration that I was expressing could not be tolerated by the repressive regimes that were in control of that area of the world at the time. But my experience in the physical body was such an exceptional one. I was leaving my physical body, traveling, if you will, in the astral form, able to speak and converse with people while I was meditating elsewhere. They would see my physical structure as if it was real. And so you must bring this understanding to the story of the crucifixion. I had, by the time my death became required, it was required on several levels. The political regimes, the religious systems of the time had conspired to bring this ending about. But I too was collaborative in the ending. It was a teaching opportunity beyond most beings' ability to understand. My teachings with the disciples that you are familiar with had come to a point where they now had to be on their own. They were looking to me to solve their problems. They were looking to me for salvation. How ironic that that is what has happened over the last thousands of years, that people look to me for salvation, and it is not in me. It is in your own mind. It is in your own self-knowledge. And that problem arose in my lifetime. Beings who, through an inability to understand non-dualism, an inability to comprehend that the body is not real and that the being you see in a body is not more powerful, not more holy, not more divine than you. You all suffer from this. You have heroes and those beings you look down on. It is the same idea. It is the same system. That was taking place within the minds of my disciples, and they were not progressing anymore. The system in which I was preaching was not going to allow this anymore. And so a decision was made long before the event that that is how I would leave. But it would not be the story that you have been told in religion. It was my demonstration of my lack of attachment to the physical. I was no longer attached to the physical in any way. I could manifest a new body. I could travel through time-space in a way that seemed magical, in a way that seemed divine. There are many demonstrations of this in other cultures, but in this particular culture, that demonstration is not common. It is not common because you are forbidden from practicing that which I taught. You are forbidden from training the mind, and that has been long in the making in your society. And that is why this story is coming out now, because to change your society, you must understand this society is built on these untruths. This society is built on the history of the Christian church. That is what it is built on. It is built on stories about me being sacrificed, being suffering. This implies that this is a noble act, to sacrifice and to suffer, to behave yourself. So the stories of my rebellion, the bad behavior, have been deleted, removed. There are occasional ones in there that allow you to see a glimpse into my temperament. But my temperament was not a quiet, well-behaved one. It could not be a quiet, well-behaved one with the assignment that I had to accomplish on this plane. I had to be strong. I had to be independent. I had to listen to the guidance that I was receiving and act upon it without care for judgment of or by others. And so when this betrayal transpired, it was not a betrayal. It was part of the design. We will speak about Judas a little bit here because he too has had a bad rap, so to speak. His destiny was to play that role. But he was a dear friend of mine and I loved him very much. I knew the role that he would play. It was not a surprise. I had been told the role that he would play in this drama. And so I loved him as I loved my other brothers. He was not reviled by me in any way, shape or form. His passing was difficult for him because until he left this plane, he did not know the part he played. He believed that he had killed his good friend. We met in the non-physical very shortly after his passing, and he was given complete understanding. And he did, however, have a difficult time for a little while. But love is always ready to receive you when you pass over into the non-physical, and it was the same for him. My experience was one of ecstatic release from the bounds of that time and place. When I left my physical body, when my physical form was killed, I had left, my consciousness had left before it really happened. I had the ability to remove myself. I had the ability to translate the experience into something else. This is the power of the mind. The power of the mind to manifest, the power of the mind to relieve itself from suffering, the power of the mind to focus on love to the exclusion of all other things. My disciples, those beings who were close to me, there were many. There were not just the ones you know about. There were many, many beings who had followed me into that ending, that final chapter. But there were many beings there who did not understand because they still saw me as a body. And anyone who saw me as a body suffered terribly. They believed that the story that was happening in front of their eyes was the truth, that I was being killed. You cannot open a mind further than it is open in one moment. Only those beings who had reached a level of understanding of the teachings, who had studied, who had relinquished their attachment to the world, could truly grasp what was happening in that moment. In terms of the resurrection, it was not the same body. The body that was killed was demanifested. A new one was manifested, and I continued to teach, in fact, on the earth for many years after that experience. There are tales of beings seeing me, and that is true. I did not stay in that particular location for very long because of humans' inability to understand. They would go into fear of demons and possession. They would go into a place where my demonstrating aliveness after that experience would not help them. And this is an important thing for you to understand on your journey. You must not try and teach people who are not ready to be taught. You must demonstrate your own practice. You must demonstrate your own evolution of mind. And those that are curious, those that are of that level will find you. You are a beacon of love. That is what you will become. You will share that experience moment by moment in your ordinary days with the beings that live and around you and with you and encounter you. And they will see a difference in you. And those that are ready, those that are curious, those that can have that dialogue will approach you. They will talk to you. They will query you on what you are doing. And so that journey away from that center happened for that reason. We did in fact go to France. That was our destination. Yes, I was married. Yes, I had children, 2 children. We moved, if you will, to a different place. I continued my relationship with my wife for several years, but there was a great call to the non-physical for me. The vibration of the enlightened being is not of this world. There are many, many other worlds, if you will, levels of consciousness that call to you once you have accomplished that vibrational shift. And it is difficult to stay in this place. You feel it even as you raise your vibration through your own learning. You feel yourself unable to go to places that are of a lower vibration. You cannot go there anymore. And it was the same for me. But I continued to live in the physical, teaching in a real physical body. This was not a ghostly image. This was not something that you could put your hand through. I appeared completely as a normal body, because your body is manufactured by your mind. I had the ability to manufacture it as a conscious act. You are doing it as an unconscious act. We are taking you towards the ability to do it consciously. This is how you master the material. This is what miracles are. The mind demonstrating its complete and absolute understanding of what creation is. You are created in the image of your Creator, which is ever expressing love, creativity, extension. Fears and judgments and conditionings in the mind cause retraction. It is a very simple process. These are the limiting ideas, the shrinking ideas, the fearful ideas. These keep you in the physical. These keep you disempowered. When you tap into divine mind through the practice of forgiveness, it is a science. You will raise your vibration into realms that allow you to access the wisdom of creation. It is open to all of you. It is available to all of you. But you must understand how the mind works. You must understand that you manufacture your own fears. Your fears are not happening to you. They are dear friends that you feed frequently and invite to dine with you at your table frequently. Your fears are coddled. Your fears are nurtured. And so they grow strong and they grow powerful. And you do not understand your part in their development. You do not understand that you are the creator. The creative mind untrained still makes things. It creates things all the time. You are, in fact, making your body, your world, your experience. You are not aware of it because of the level of consciousness that you hold at this time. But as you forgive, as you raise your vibration, as you stop acting in separation vibration by your demonstration of love through the practice of forgiveness, you will experience new things. You will tap into new realms. You will be able to bring in understanding that heretofore you have not been able to do. And so these principles that your society is based on, coming from that story, have kept you small. You have believed that you are not divine, that these other beings are more special. This reinforces your lack of self-love. This reinforces your powerlessness. To believe that God killed his only begotten Son as a sacrifice terrifies the mind. It makes you feel so afraid to approach what you would consider God that you stay in the lower consciousness realms, because if that happened to the beloved Son, then what is going to happen to you? Surely this God that killed his own Son will kill you for you are imperfect in your own vision. You do not understand what you are. You have been told lies about what you are. And so salvation becomes fear, and littleness and limitedness becomes safe. And that is the story that grows out of that mythology of the crucifixion, told in the way that the church tells it. How can you trust a God that would do that? It is not logical. It is not sound thinking. And the mind knows that. It feels that. It is aware of the untruth hidden in that story. And yet your society is deeply indoctrinated into that story and has been for a very long time. And so you find your own intuition, your own guidance system saying one thing and your entire society saying something else. Who are you going to favor? Who are you going to side with? You must side with the entire society, because you have also been told that you are a sinner. You are not divine. These two stories work hand in hand with each other. And it is only in the writing of that story, the telling of that story, the bringing forth of true information so that you can understand that I was an ordinary man brought to a level of consciousness through a designed and preordained practice, that you too can understand that you are able to go on that journey. You are here on that journey listening to the story. When you listen to the story, your mind begins to shift. You begin to change your consciousness just hearing the story. For those beings who believe the story, hook, line, and sinker, these retellings will cause a great deal of difficulty in the mind, because their entire self-concept is built on that story. So understand that as you travel through your own transformation, that any time you encounter someone who is deeply invested in the Christian story, the story of the divine Son of God, the Jesus, the Christed Jesus as a special being, you are going to encounter resistance and tremendous fear. Be aware of this before you begin those conversations. Make sure that if you are speaking to someone, that they are on a level of consciousness to understand what you are sharing. Do not share this with beings who are not there with you. There is no point. It is like speaking a foreign language to someone who does not comprehend. You are merely going to frustrate yourself and upset the other person. Again, your responsibility is to change your own mind. Your responsibility is to begin to look at what effect this new retelling has on your opinion of your society, on your opinion of your own powerful, creative self. And we want you to work with that story internally and without broadcasting it to others. This being has decided to do that job. This being has courage. This being has designed a life, a consciousness to do this work. You are not being asked to do this work, but you are being asked to do your version of this work internally and in your own experience. So trust in the internal process. It is internal before it is external. This channeling experience has been long in the making, a lifetime in the making. Do not mistake it for a quick fix. You are not going to fix things quickly, but we are nibbling at the structure of your society, because to build a new society, to bring love in, to transform the minds of your society, we must give you the truth on which to build that society. You are looking at the result of lies and repression and control at play in your world. That is what you are seeing in the systems that are at play here. These are the systems that were designed originally to oppress, to repress, to control, and you have been manipulated through education, through conditioning programs to behave in a certain way. Just as beings on the earth plane, when I was incarnated, were trained to behave in a certain way. And if you instill enough fear in the mind, if you threaten enough people, if you kill enough people, you can control many, many minds. But one mind connected to source, one mind connected to truth can change your entire world. And that is what we want you to begin to think about as you are doing this work, as you are facing your fears. You are preparing yourself to become the one mind that can change the world. And it is possible. It is within your grasp in this lifetime. But it takes as much work to transform your mind and align it with love and truth as has been put into training you into fear and littleness. And you must understand that as you go on this journey. You must understand the effort that has been put into making you small. Generation after generation of training and teaching and preparation for littleness has taken place. You must be willing to dedicate some time. Do not see it as an endless chore. That is not what your experience will be. As you bring more and more love into your mind and heart, as you release your fears, as you train your mind, you will very, very quickly get results. It will not be a decade-long struggle. It is difficult in the beginning because there has been so much effort put into training you. But many of you are far along the path to mind training, to understanding. But we want you to understand it is not in the thinking process. It is not in the world. It is not in your ego. It is in your emotional guidance system. It is in your feeling self. That is where the information is pure. That is where the information is true. But you must temper this understanding with the understanding of what conditioning has been done to you. For conditioned ideas deeply ingrained in the mind will be the thing that will feel right. They will be limiting, however. You will have a sensation arising through your guidance system, inspired to connect. You will always have from spirit an expansive feeling, a growing feeling, a joyful feeling, a letting go feeling, a communication feeling. Conditioned ideas are always less than. They are always, don't do that, somebody won't like it. They are always, you should do that tomorrow, don't do it today. You will discern very, very clearly when you are looking at your mind which is which. Ideas, feelings, joyful emotions, creativity, self-expression. These are the messages from spirit, and they are coming directly through your guidance system, your emotional guidance system. This is one of the reasons that sobriety, generally speaking, is important, because you must be able to read the messages that are coming through your physical structure. You must be able to clearly understand that your joy is not induced by a substance, that your joy is the release of fear and judgment. Your joy is always there, ready to come through, because you are loved, because you are connected to that which you would call God, divine mind, all that is, oneness. Your connection to that vibration is through your emotional guidance system, through your feeling, creative, imaginative self. It is not through the thinking process. It is not through the acting process. It is arising spontaneously through the emotional guidance system. But your conditioned mind is layers and layers of dirt and fear on top of that. And so that is what you will discern first, because that is what you have been taught is right. You have been taught it is right not to speak your truth. You have been told that it is right to sacrifice yourself in favor of others. You have been taught that it is right to suffer. And none of these things are true, and none of those things did I teach when I was on the earth plane so many years ago. These are the lessons that were edited out. These are the lessons that were deleted out because they are revolutionary, and structures of control and repression cannot survive when beings are in touch with love and freedom and truth. So we are going to give this vessel a rest, let her catch her breath, have a little drink, and you can come back for more instruction in a few minutes.